welcome back, everybody, to the Indie Inkwell. We have been gone for almost 2 months, I want to say, but we are back. I am here with my co-host, Michael, aka Longbox Entertainment. What is up, man? How you been for this
Yeah,
little hiatus we've been on?
man, I've been good. I've been good. I think we both been very busy
Yeah,
for
to
the
say the
last,
least.
month or so. So it's good to be back on the grind. I hope our viewers can see that we changed the intro just a little bit.
I know we got
Yeah.
some new intro music, a new background for it. We've got we're at a different time, same day. We're at 7 p.m. now instead of
Mhm.
6 p.m. Makes it a little bit easier for some other people to tune in.
Yeah.
And right now we've got somebody who I have interviewed before, but you have not been introduced to yet.
Yeah.
The creator and cartoonist for The Legend of Jamie Roberts. Please, everybody, welcome Kelci D. Crawford to the show. What is going on? How are you doing? Sorry, if I could talk, that'd be great. It wouldn't be the Indie Inkwell if I didn't screw up the intro.
Yeah. Surprise! It's me. Yes. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me again. And also very nice to meet you, Mike,
Nice to
aka
meet you as well.
Longbox. Yeah. Very excited to
Oh,
kick this
because
off.
when I was getting ready for us to come back, I saw my emails that were piled up, and your name was there, and I was like, "Oh, I know them. I know them already." So I was like, "We got to get them back on the show real quick," because yeah, like I said last time, it was for a whole other company, whole other show, but we've got you back, and it's the same project but different.
Same project but different. Yeah, because the last time we talked about The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volume 2, now this upcoming crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter that's going to be launching October 1st is for The Legend of Jamie Roberts Volumes 1 and 2.
Right. So we
Okay.
got much more to talk about than just volume 2 this time because
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even gotten a chance to read volume 1 the last time we interviewed you. So
Oh
now
boy.
I'm actually like fully caught up. I know what's going on.
So now you have context for everything.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Awesome.
I didn't have like in volume 2, I did not have a primer. That was like last time in The Legend of Jamie Roberts.
Right,
You're
but
just
it was
in
still fun enough for me to follow along with.
Okay,
So
good.
that's all that mattered to
Hey,
me.
that's when you know you have a good comic where you could just pick up at any point and
Right,
like
and
can
you could
follow
just
what's
dive
going
into
on.
it. Like it took
Yes.
me a minute to figure out everybody's names and stuff, but we were good.
Yeah. Very Akira Toriyama in that way. Because, like,
Mhm.
Yes,
you
not
know, with
everybody's
Dragon Ball.
introduced when they're introduced, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. Because, like, with Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, you could just pick up the manga and you can start at any point and then you're just sucked right in. And I would hope
True.
that with The Legend of Jamie Roberts, that has the same sort of vibe. You could just pick it up and
Right.
immediately in
I
it.
did it. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
100%. Because I mean, Michael had no idea what he was getting into with this one. I
Oh
basically
no.
forced this episode on him. I'm like, I already know this person. I know the book. We're having them on.
Mhm,
And I was
mhm.
like, all right, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know you, including Michael, why don't you run us through your origin story a little bit? Kind of how you got into this whole nerdy world of fandom to begin with, and then kind of how you stepped into the industry and actually started making your own things.
Yeah. For folks who saw the original interview, I'm probably going to hit a lot of the same talking points, but I'm going to go ahead and say them again. So, I mean, obviously, I started drawing comics when I was wee. I started with like kind of Garfield knockoff comics because I loved Garfield when I was a kid. Um, did not realize until I was a teenager that comics could be a little bit more because my first manga that I ever came across, or at least my first comic that I ever came across that was not a comic strip from the newspapers, was Gundam Wing Episode 0.
Oh,
Somehow,
such a good anime.
somehow my middle of nowhere library had a copy of Gundam Wing Episode 0, and I was familiar with it because my older sister was obsessed with the anime. So,
Mhm.
and I would catch occasional episodes. In particular, the episodes that were on the daytime slot for Toonami. So there were some very strange censoring choices because
There's
there was
always
Yeah.
some
also
strange decisions made when it
yeah
comes to editing with those.
yeah because like there was also the Adult Swim slot and Gundam Wing was also there and
Which had
like
none of the censoring and was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah yeah
You wanted to
yeah
stay up for the later episodes. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Outlaw Star had the same kind of situation, which is wild to think about Outlaw Star having a censored version. I don't know how you would pull that off, but
I feel like the episodes were much shorter in the censored version.
yes, yes, exactly. So yeah, child grew up on Sunday newspaper comics until I came across Gundam Wing episode 0, and obviously grew up with anime. Dragon Ball Z was my jam, and I'm the peanut butter. And discovered that manga that it was based on when somebody left behind a Shonen Jump in the band room, and I was like, well, if nobody's going to claim that, don't mind if I do.
Right. And explain what the Shonen Jumps are for people who may not know what that is.
Oh, right, because this is like way before Webtoon. So Shonen,
I mean, and Shonen Jump's still a thing, which is
Shonen
crazy.
Jump is still a thing. Yes,
it is. Yeah,
yeah. But the Shonen Jump magazines were these magazines that were about standard comic issue size, but they were like thick. They were like phone book thick. And it was just manga, like individual chapters of particular manga. So like the issue that I picked up had a chapter of Dragon Ball Z. It had Naruto, Hikaru no Go, One Piece, and one other manga I cannot remember. But I remember those 4 distinctly. But I came across that and I was like, wait, there's more? And that's when I started getting into Shonen Jump more.
Because that's before all that stuff was on like WB Kids and like they had all that stuff on like the kids channels in the mornings for a while.
Yeah. And One Piece had the 4Kids dub, which had the most unironically interesting and fun rap intro of any of those shows. Which was great.
I feel like almost every like dubbed version of anime that came over here, especially in like the late 90s, early 2000s, had that kind of whole thing going on. Like all of it turned it, like made all the intros into like rap rock songs. Like,
oh yeah.
But I, as a child who grew up on Digimon, yes. Yep. That intro still echoes in my head to this day. So yeah, got all those influences happening all at once. And then I go to college. And then at college, I took up a part-time work during the summers. It was a full-time job. It was a summer job drawing caricatures at an amusement park in Ohio. That was not Kings Island.
Yeah, we have more than one actually.
We have more than one. Yeah, surprisingly, you would think that Ohio would not, because it's Ohio, but Ohio also has Cedar Point. That was where I did all of my caricatures in the summers.
That's where the camels just got free over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
They have camels get free over the summer there?
I mean, there were a lot of things that happened at Cedar Point, but that's a podcast for a whole other day. Yeah,
for sure.
We'll just say it that way. Then after I left Cedar Point, I actually took like a year to try to put together a portfolio to send to comics publishers, because I really wanted my work to get published, and nobody was saying yes. So I was like, well, this is the age of webcomics. I'm just going to make a webcomic. And I started making Johnson and Sir, and then it just took off from there.
Dude, that's dope. That's freaking dope.
And then Jamie Roberts started as a webcomic in November of 2018, and we have been going ever since.
Is it like, I wonder, because I don't think we've never had a guest on that's done like web comics, right?
We've had a couple, but that's
Maybe
not like their bread and butter. Like most of them want to do the single print or the single issue prints, is send them off, get another one going, send it off, get another one going, send it off. You started kind of the opposite, because they all eventually put it on Webtoons for everybody or something, but you started with that.
Yeah. I started with a webcomic version, and fully transparently, I own the website, I own the domain, mostly because like I knew with a lot of the subject matter that I wanted to tackle in The Legend of Jamie Roberts and how I wanted to illustrate it, it was not going to fly with Webtoons. What is it, like terms of service?
Right.
Yeah. So like I could probably post like some of the early pages of like chapter 1, but anything beyond that, nope, can't do that.
Oh yeah, I was definitely surprised the farther I got into the comic. I was like, oh, I didn't expect this.
Yeah. I have a little warning on the backs of volume 1 and volume 2 that there's like, there's pirate violence, there's non-sexual nudity, and there's also a lot of swearing because they're pirates. Yes.
Oh yes.
But
the book doesn't shy away from things by any means, but it's
No.
not like over the top with any of it.
I try not to be. I try to have it be more grounded in like how the characters would genuinely react. Because for me, the characters are the most important part of the story.
Yeah, none of them feel like they have like a particular role as far as like your specific comedic relief guy or your, like your dude is always screwing everything up and getting everybody else in trouble. Like there's no one person who has one of those roles.
No. I like to think of it more like Jamie is kind of the brains of the group. They're the ones that get the ideas, including the really bad ideas. And Thomas and Daniel are not necessarily yes men, because Thomas does have the wherewithal to be like, wait a minute, what if there's like this other problem that might pop up? And Daniel is kind of the heart of the group, where he's like, oh, but if we, like, for example, in chapter 1, it's like, oh no, if we actually leave the seas, that might affect the rest of the pirate crew. I wonder what they're going to say.
We should maybe have a discussion.
We should have a discussion about this. Like, it's Daniel who makes that suggestion. Because the other two, it kind of, they just get so caught up in like the back and forth about like, why don't we go find treasure? What if we find like nasties or cannibals?
Right. Now, speaking of that part, because it's one thing that I really did like. I love how their captain was like, I'm all for it. Go ahead. Go out there and explore. What am I to like hold you guys back? And then,
which goes against what you would think a pirate captain would do. They'd be like, "No, you're not going anywhere." Like,
right. I was before like it was getting to that part. I was automatically thinking, "Oh man, the captain. She's not gonna like this. Like she might." Because I'm feeling like, okay, at that point in the story, I'm thinking like, all right, she basically raised all of them, right? And these are like, your babies are leaving. Like your babies are leaving. So, but the fact that she was like, you know what, go out there. You need to explore. You need to see the world. And if you realize that it's not for you, you have a place to come back to. And that was awesome.
Yeah. Part of that is, and this is a little peek behind the curtain for the character of Captain O'Malley. She does recognize that the trio didn't necessarily have a home even before they joined on the pirate ship. So the pirate ship is their home, but she also doesn't want to keep them just on the boat for the rest of their lives. Cause again, they just turned 18. And she's like, hey, if you want to go out exploring, you absolutely need to do that, because, hey, piracy is a rough life. So absolutely
go enjoy yourself for a while. Like,
yeah. Piracy is a rough life. Go onto land and check out this new place. Absolutely, we support you. So like, she's the mom character that they did not have at the start. But she's the mom character that they got.
Oh yeah. She's awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, I got so much respect for this character already, and I'm only like a couple pages in. Like,
yeah. Oh, just wait until she makes her resurgence in like chapter 13 or 14, because I've got some plans.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Good plans, but plans.
So for those who have not read volume 1 or 2, give everybody kind of a synopsis of the entirety of the legend of Jamie Roberts.
Oh boy.
And you can give us the Cliff Notes version if you need to.
Okay. So, volume 1. Jamie and their 2 friends join a pirate crew, find an unfinished treasure map, decide to leave the seas so that they can explore this new land on this map that is like waiting to be filled out. And So they leave, they get hired to be bodyguards for this man, Basho, who's got a lot of secrets, like so many secrets, and he reveals them gradually, but there's always that sense that he's not telling you everything.
Right. He leaves out just enough to be like, what? Like,
yeah. Just enough to make you ask more questions.
Right. Very, very Yoda-like without the payoff at the end.
Right. Yeah. Like, for example, in chapter 2, when they're walking by and it's like, why do you have the triangles painted around the like borders of your doors? And it's like, that's to keep the Mokta out. Are those what you call rats? No. And it just ends it
like,
right there.
Come on, man. Like
what?
Like, okay, well, what are they then?
What are Mokta then? You find out in like chapter 3 and 4 what exactly Mokta are, because as you explore the land with Jamie and friends, you gradually recognize, oh, so this land that they are in has had this war happen like 500 years ago that still has a ripple effect. Like as they pass through in a little bit in volume 1, but more so in like volume 2 and 3, you start to see like the ruins of cities that are left over from the war that happened 500 years ago. Which I love that little environmental detail. I try to add that in whenever I can. But as they are going through, it's like, yes, there was a war that happened 500 years ago involving dragons. And it's like, but wait, are dragons real? And you find out in volume 2, yes, dragons are real.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the coolest thing. Yeah, and in fact, dragons are on the cover of volume 2.
Yes.
Yeah, for those listening and not able to view, go over to YouTube, check out the stream of this, and you can actually see what we're talking about because we're showing pictures of everything.
Yep. And as they go through this world, it's like, okay, you need to stop at this village because I've been hearing that the chief has been acting strange lately. And it turns out in this village, the chief has been acting strangely because, surprise, there's a creature named Mokta that has taken his form and has been acting as his double and holding the original chief hostage. And they have to figure out how to save the chief, defeat the Mokta, which is a malicious spirit that is indigenous to this land. They have to figure out how to defeat this evil spirit who is summoning more evil spirits. It results in a big ol' encounter that happens throughout most of volume 2.
Oh man, like
I love it.
The design of the Mokta, it's like I feel like, say, like if I was a little kid again and like I was watching, because I feel like this story, it flows so well, like I could see it being like an animated series, right? And I was like, yeah, if I was a kid again and I saw that animated and like moving, and like I have a weird thing about things with like multiple eyes.
Yeah.
Right? It's just
That's
always
for a
been,
lot of people. A lot of people
Right?
find that very like discomforting.
Like, oh my gosh, I think I'm getting goosebumps. It's like I don't like it, right? So I was like, dude, that would have like freaked me out.
Oh
if I
yeah,
had
like
something
5
like
years
that.
old, turn the TV to the wrong channel and see that. Like,
I have a lot of fun designing those guys.
oh, I can
I
imagine.
can imagine it for real.
So, where do you get the inspiration for a lot of these designs?
A lot of it is doodles in my sketchbook, and it's also playing around with the language that I constructed for the story. So I built this whole other language that it's only like hinted at in volumes 1 and 2. It becomes more of a
You see
presence.
little bits of it people are using as like that's just what they're used to saying for that particular phrase, so that's why they say it.
Yeah, like I think it was in volume 2 where Igie is often referred to with the title Rame, which is their word for chieftain's daughter, and things like that. A lot of the language is kind of borrowed from a lot of elements from like Navajo, but also parts from like Yoruba and little smatterings of Cree that I've picked up. And kind of the same sort of sentence structure as Latin, because I was that pretentious kid that studied Latin when I was in high school.
I don't even think that was an option in my high school.
The teacher who taught it was old.
I bet.
That was how. Yeah. But yeah, learning Latin made picking up a few other languages a lot easier. Which was
Because
why
most languages are kind of based on Latin, aren't they?
yeah, the Frips languages, French,
Okay.
Romanian, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Also,
See, we're learning stuff today on the Indie Inkwell, guys.
yeah. Also, weirdly enough, because I learned German and I am currently learning Japanese.
Oh, wow.
Both German and Japanese have the same sort of sentence structure as Latin, where the verb is at the end of the sentence, and it drives me bonkers. But when you're constructing languages, it helps to know these kinds of things so that you know like what you're wanting to put in your own language.
Right.
So when I was constructing the language for The Legend of Jamie Roberts, I was like, well, one thing I want to have is words that are like combiner words, like renage. Renage is a combination of fox and spider. So
okay.
yeah. And the way that you signify that is that re is the word for fox, nya is the word for spider, and j is a signifier that's like, oh, these are two words mushed together to make one word.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And you'll see the Renyage Mokta chasing after Daniel in volume 2. He's a big guy.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah. But a lot of the Mokta have names that are different combiner words, or the Hatsue. The Hatsue Mokta is the chief's double is a Hatsue. That's kind of a combiner phrase that's like almost like doppelganger if there is a rough translation of it.
Gotcha.
And also I have to throw it out there that there is a swear in volume 2 that is said by Egypt that in the back I was like, the author has chosen not to translate this.
I love it. I love that. That's awesome. Because then that just leaves it up to the reader's interpretation, like what you think that means.
It's something like Udre it yeket, and it's like as soon as she says it, her spirit companion's like, Madam!
Right. Like, you know, it was like one of those like the C words, you know, it's like, oh my goodness, why did you say that?
But you know, it's a lot of fun to work with the language and work with it and be like, oh yeah, this is definitely going to be a swear. I'm not going to translate it, but this is a swear.
Right.
That's freaking awesome. That's awesome. You know, you answered one of my questions, because one of my questions was for like the little bits of the other language. If you did you like go out of your way to like research all these other languages? But the fact that like, you know, you took Latin in high school, you kind of already knew like some things. So that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. Also want to throw this out there because I did give credit in volume 2, but not in volume 1. I meant to in volume 1. But I have to give a shout out to Navajo Nation and Acoma Pueblo, because in particular Navajo Nation. I went out for 3 weeks in Navajo Nation and like studied the culture, got to talk to a lot of the elders, got to talk to a lot of the people who resided in Navajo Nation. And I got to see amazing sites, Canyon de Chelly being the most notable site that is homaged throughout volumes 1 and 2. Almost all of Maliwe as a town is modeled after a specific gorge in Canyon de Chelly.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. For anybody who might be curious or who knows the area, it is the same gorge where you find, and this is the actual name of it, the White House. The White House is a old site built out of white rock that is carved into the edges of the cliff.
I love that. See, we're learning all kinds of stuff today.
I mean, you can tell like by reading the story, there's a level of authenticity that's there, right? So it's almost like, I mean, of course, you know, reading it, I didn't know if any of this was like based off of anything in the real world. I read stuff and I kind of just take things for what it is, right?
Right. Don't
So
overanalyze.
yeah, I don't really do that, right? But then you know how like sometimes when you read something, you could just tell like they're definitely like
There was
just
extra
making,
effort put into
yeah,
this.
there's extra effort, and then you can also tell when they're just making stuff up, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if you don't really like believe it, but the fact in the context of the world that you have built, it's very believable. Like it's right, it didn't feel out of place or anything.
And,
So.
well, and the biggest teller for that kind of thing, I think, is the names of places.
Mhm.
Because you can make up names for people all day long, but when you try to
Yes.
name like a city or a country or something, you can tell when they were just like, it just put some letters in a hat and whatever we pick out, that's what it's going to be called.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Oh, don't make me think of Michael Moorcock's Elric saga again. That has been on my mind for the last 48 hours, and it just feels like every time that I look at a map, I'm like, you just vomited a bunch of consonants.
Yes, that's and I see that all the time.
Like they're pronounceable, but it's still like, man.
Like
ugh.
I know you just took a Lord of the Rings word you heard and altered it a little bit. Like something
Right.
like that. Like they didn't put a lot of thought behind it.
Yeah.
But you're not only, writing this, you're also the artist. You're
Mhm.
also making a whole language for it. Like
Yeah.
that is, like that's Lord of the Rings level commitment to a project.
Oh, thank you.
At least in
I-
my brain, because not many
Yeah.
people are going to spend the time to actually build a whole language and
Mhm.
make it make sense.
Right.
Mhm.
I do have a little bit of a confession, but this is also a little peek behind the curtain, and I'll explain why I did this. A lot of the place names are puns off of already
Okay.
existing words.
What?
Because
Well, that's
when
probably why it wasn't very noticeable, because it's something that already exists.
But well, here's the thing though, because when I was in college, I studied African art history for like a year. And a lot of these place names are place names named after either locations or peoples, particularly from West Africa that I was studying. So, like, Leona is named after Sierra Leone. Yorub is a pun off of Yoruba. Maliwe is a pun off of Mali. Dagona is a pun off of Dogon. Zanibu is a reference to one of the peoples that's in North Africa. I can't remember off the top of my head. But theirs is a click language. So it's not entirely pronounced Zanibu, but the closest Anglification of it is like Zanib something or other. So I was like, Zanibu, pun. Because like
I mean,
I
I
just
think
wanted
that's
to
why
have
it all
those.
feels so authentic, because technically it
Yeah.
is. Like they're all
Yeah.
named after real places. They're just altered a little bit.
Right.
But
I feel like
again, not many
everything-
people are going to make that effort to make it make sense. Like,
Yeah, but I
True,
wanted to
true.
pay those homages because there's a lot of like, if you know your African art history, there's homages to a lot of African art elements throughout this story.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, like
I can
the
definitely see that.
design of the dragon that
Mhm.
appears in volume 2 is based off of a map, a mask from one of the West African peoples. I'm pretty sure it's the Bois, but the mask is called Warakun. It's a men's society mask, and it is shaped like a dragon. Because as it turns out, there's a lot of African cultures that have dragons in their mythology.
I didn't even know that. That's crazy. I didn't know that at all.
It's so heckin' cool.
Like, because usually, like when I think of like dragons, and when it's close to like folklore and all that stuff, I usually think like Asian, or maybe like something European, like with like the like medieval stuff, right?
Mhm, mhm.
I would have never had thought that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Also, I have to give a nod to the design of the staff that Basho often walks around with. The head of that staff is actually an homage to 2 different groups of people. One group has the Chiwara or Kiwara. It's pronounced a couple different ways. But that is modeled after a stylized like antelope. It's part of a like ritual among one of the peoples of West Africa. They have the Chihuahua mask. And it's also modeled after a Asante practice where the Asante king has a council of wise people and they have these staffs that they walk around with, but the staff heads are interchangeable. And the different like staff heads have different messages depending on what the imagery is. So I was like, hey, how about I combine a kind of like subtle nod to this design while also combining the functionality of this staff and combine it together into this new staff design so that spoilers, the staff that Basho walks around with, the head of the staff is an homage to his dragon form. I just blew your mind.
I was like, what? I was like,
yeah, this is a common practice in the lands of the legend of Jamie Roberts here. The people who walk around with staffs are often dragons in human form, and the staff heads are an homage to their dragon forms.
I love that.
That's freaking cool. That is just a little bit more elements of like fantasy. I know, speaking of like different genres that are put into this story, a little bit what me and JJ were talking about before we came on was I thought it was really cool that it was, you know, like a swashbuckling like adventure at the core. Because I was thinking like, when's the last time we really like seen something like that? I think it was like maybe like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies or something like that. But like now when I'm really thinking about it, that's like a bygone genre of entertainment. Like of course there was a time where characters like Robin Hood and I don't know,
like the Errol Flynn films.
Yeah, like the Errol Flynn, you know, characters like that, they were very popular, and I feel like that's something that kind of died out a little bit. And this made me, it was crazy, like reading it kind of made me nostalgic for an era that I really never lived in. If that makes sense. Like, if that
made you want to go grab a sword and jump on a ship, right?
Like even like Daniel, right? Okay, like Daniel, the fact that he has like the bows and arrows, the fact that his I guess the feathers on his arrows are green, and like he's blonde headed. So I'm automatically thinking, I automatically thought Green Arrow from DC Comics, and then I was like, oh, Robin Hood. Like I was thinking that too. So that's like freaking cool. Like,
yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh, I did, like, y'all, these compliments keep throwing them at me. But no, I could talk about this stuff all day. I have the like enthusiasm of a rabid toddler showing off the doodles on the fridge when it comes to talking about this comic.
Right.
No, I mean,
what was it that made you go with pirates though instead of, I don't know, prospectors?
You know, that's a funny story about this is another little peek behind the curtain. Initially, they were not pirates. They were, in fact, soldiers on the run from Toloi at first. And then they became pirates. But then I was workshopping it with my older sister. Shout out to my older sister. Because honestly, my siblings are like my go-to when it comes to hashing out writing ideas. Because we're all different flavors of like creative. But all of us also really love to write stories. So they're the first two that I turn to whenever I'm like stuck on a plot point or something. And in fact, I did talk with my younger sibling recently about a different plot point, but that can be a discussion for volume 3. But I talked with my older sister about I was like, I'm not feeling the whole soldier angle. I just want to start when they're pirates. And she's like, then start when they're pirates. And I'm like, I'll just start when they're pirates. Sometimes that's the story that I want to write.
You know, like,
hey, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I just cut out that useless first step and I just went straight to piracy.
I felt like if you stuck with the soldier like backstory, I feel like that would have aged them up.
It would
And
have.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have been, because I like the
I don't know if
vibe
it's
of,
fun.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? I like the fun, you know, because having like teenage characters is just incites fun, you know. It's like Teen
Mhm.
Titans or something, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It also gives you the vibe of like, oh, they're going on a journey where they're coming of age, where like,
Hmm.
let's be real, being on a ship kind of like insulates you from a lot of everything else that is happening on dry land.
Right.
And even if you do get exposure to what's happening on dry land, it's only in like little pockets. Like you don't see all of it. You don't see a good chunk of like you don't understand when somebody in Leona, for example, is talking about like, oh, why are we talking to these people based out of Zenibu? Zenibu is always like a blah 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 blah, and
Right.
it's
You
like
just have no context for
you
that.
have no context for that. Yeah. So yeah, that was the case for Jamie, Thomas, and Daniel for a good chunk of their lives. Was they were pirates. They grew up on a pirate ship, and it's like, yeah, that comes with violence, but it's when it's the world that you know, like
It's
it's
normal.
not that weird.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Now what
So
I'm thinking,
it's yeah.
Well, it's like take somebody who's never been to a Comic-Con for an equivalent example and dump them in a Comic-Con by themselves. They're not going to know what to do. Like,
No. They have no idea what panels are. They have no idea like
how to go into a booth and like look at stuff to buy stuff at a vendor's booth. They don't know if it's okay to walk up to a comic creator's table or if they need to buy a ticket for something or you don't know what to do.
Yeah. The first time Comic-Con goer is an experience.
Yeah. I always tell
Yeah.
everybody bring water.
Yes, absolutely bring
and
water.
wear comfortable shoes.
Water
Yes.
and good
Wear
shoes.
comfortable shoes.
You do
Yeah,
those two
because-
things, the rest will figure it out.
Yeah, because a lot of venues they take place in convention centers where the floor is just straight concrete.
Mhm.
So
The
definitely wear
booths that have
comfortable
carpet
shoes.
and padding paid extra for their carpet and padding square.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yep. I could talk about conventions for days as well, but we're gonna stay
Yeah,
on
that was like
topic.
my entire 2023 was convention.
Yeah. I will say shout out to everybody who I've met at comic conventions that has loved the Legend of Jamie Roberts when I pitched them on it. I sometimes
I met you
will-
at Gem City Comic Con in 2023. So
yeah. I often like to, in particular when pitching volume 1, I like to show off the page where Jamie, Thomas, and Daniel see a giraffe for the first time.
Oh, that's one of my favorite parts. I even wrote down the line. It's a spotted horse thing.
What the? It's a horse thing. A spotted horse thing. You mean a giraffe? Like
I
that
love
whole
that.
page is my favorite thing to pitch to people.
Because I saw those two comments and I saw me and my buddy Forrest that I've grew up with for the last like 15 years. And I'm like, that would be us too if we first saw a giraffe for the first time. Like that.
Yep.
That's exactly how it would happen.
Yes, I really wanted to capture that, especially in volume 1, to give you not it's a glimpse at like, oh yeah, this is definitely a new place, but also it's like, oh, even with the like mundane stuff, this is surprising. And then the very next scene is Jamie spotting a noni for the first time, and they're like,
Oh, yes,
wait, is this
yes.
just part of the natural wildlife? And the answer is kind of no.
Right.
Because this particular noni, his name is Pim. He's a forest spirit guardian. Noni are their own kind of classification of spirit. They don't usually take human form. They almost always pop up in the form of an animal of some sort. But they're usually nature spirits of some flavor. And it just so happens that Pim is the spirit of this particular forest just outside of Yorub.
Oh.
Yeah, I love Pim.
No, you could definitely tell like that's going to be a fan favorite character at a certain point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I actually made him a
It's too
sticker.
cool looking. Like,
Yeah. I made him a sticker as a stretch goal for volume 1 when volume 1 was on Kickstarter the first time. I might try to bring him back as a sticker for this upcoming campaign which is launching October 1st. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Small plug. Small plug.
Small plug.
We'll be sure to
What's
pop up
this
a
next to
QR
my
code
feet?
here
It
in
just
a
so
few.
happens to be a small plug.
Oh, I love that. So one thing that is pretty unique about this whole thing,
Mhm.
this is a reprinting.
This is
Indie stuff doesn't
Yeah.
get reprinted very often.
not very often.
Yeah.
But there's a whole story behind this.
I was gonna say, what led to that decision to do a reprinting of it? Because that's
Yeah.
like again, that doesn't happen very often with like
doesn't.
completely independent projects like this.
Yeah. Okay. So, long story short, the first printer that I worked with, specifically for volume 1, messed up the first print run. And
Oh.
it made me so mad. So, for the next print run, I switched to a different printer, but then that printer upped their prices without warning. So, I started shopping around and I found another printer. And this is like the third company. Third time's the charm, right?
You would hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would hope. So what I'm doing is I am down to the last like smatterings of the previous runs for both volumes 1 and volume 2. I have like on hand currently like 20-ish copies of volume 1 left and 7 copies of volume 2 left. And
Bottom of the barrel.
I'm at the bottom of the barrel here. And I'm like, well, rather than going back to those other 2 printers that are either too expensive or messed up the first time around and are prone to messing up, because this was not the first time that they did it. Yeah, because they had messed up another print run of a different book, but that's a topic for a different day. Like, do your research when it comes to book printers.
I'll say we could do a
y'all.
whole episode on
Whole
just
episode
how to
of-
not get screwed over on the indie scene.
Yes. Now, I gotta be honest. That first printer, when they found out that first print run was messed up, they did send me reprints for free, but it was still a travesty that first print run was like no bueno.
Yeah, like that's a hell of a first impression with a company, you know? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you screw up
So,
the first thing I try to do with you guys, I'm probably not gonna come back. Like
well, it wasn't the first book project that I did with them, but it was not the first time that they had messed up on something.
gotcha.
So initially I was like, I'll give them another chance, and then they messed up again, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'm done. So yeah, went.
At least you gave them a chance.
I gave them a chance. Yeah, I believe in second chances, which is part of the reason I even am making the Legend of Jamie Roberts in the first place, because the through line throughout the narrative of this comic, I really wanted to focus on the theme of like second chances and giving people a chance to redeem themselves. But I don't want to tread too much into that, because that's getting into a little bit of spoiler territory for volume 2. But
that's why I kind of left after the dragon reveal. I kind of left the rest of volume 2 out of
yeah
the pictures we're showing today, because I was like, this is kind of like spoiler stuff. We can't really show this stuff.
Right. Yeah. And also a lot of butts.
Oh, there's that too.
Yeah.
But-
Look, I'm going to be transparent. This comic is intended for like teens and older. So.
And hey, I mean, you say that too. Like, there's warnings in the very inside cover. Like,
yeah,
beware, this is going to be shown. Like, and it's
Yeah.
not like, full frontal craziness going on.
Oh no. But I will say, you'd be surprised how many like parents and young kids will come up to me and they're excited about the Legend of Jamie Roberts, and I'm like, I got to be clear, this has some stuff in it, and
Right.
the kids that are like way younger than the intended audience, a lot of the time they are still excited about it and they still want the book.
Well, because to them it's a cartoon on a piece of paper. Like, I don't think that clicks for them when they're that young.
Yeah, which is why I try to like clarify with the parents as much as possible. Like,
right, like just so you know.
Just so as you know, and then I go off of like the parents' judgment. If the kid is like really, really young, because I've definitely had like 12, 13-year-olds look at the comic and they're like, I want to read this. And I look at their parents and I'm like, it's got some stuff in it. And they're like, she can handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. stuff
That's what
like
you
that.
have to base it off of. I mean, but then again, like the nudity, it's not like anything
not
like too
explicit.
crazy. It's not explicit. Like it's not like
All the important bits
it's in
are
good
covered up.
taste.
Yeah, it's in good taste. I try to be
Yeah.
tasteful.
It's good
It's a little, it's almost like Barbie dollish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
A little.
yeah.
Yeah. And nothing
You want
below.
neutral? This is neutral. Like
Yes, very neutral.
Mhm.
And also like a lot of the like naughty bits are either like turned away or censored.
yeah, like you're not gonna see his stuff flopping around if that's
No,
a worry.
no. This is not a Mobius comic, okay? I came across a Mobius comic at the library today, and I just peel it open to the middle of the book, and there's just a wang.
That was at the
And I'm like,
library.
At the public library, and I'm like, I mean, this tracks for Mobius.
I mean, it's Mobius.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked they had that at a public library. Whoever's putting the comics in is not vetting their stuff.
Well, it was in the like adult comic section, to be fair.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, maybe
So
they did
was,
then.
Yeah, so it was next to some other like comics that were like thematically relevant and tied
Gotcha.
in.
Because my public library has just got all their comic books in the young adult section, and some of them are for little kids, some of them for adults,
no.
some of them are. It's
No.
yeah, it's all just on one big rack, but it's also right next to all the manga and all the. It's odd.
It's blockbuster levels of curation is what's going on.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
a lot of the audience listening may be a little young to know what the blockbusters
Right, they have no idea what Blockbuster is. So, like, yeah, Blockbuster had this was a video rental place. You could go and you could rent out like DVDs and videos. This was before Netflix was a thing.
Okay, hold on. DVDs are this.
They are a disc that you put in a player and it plays movies.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I am not looking forward to the day when I have to explain how a VHS works.
I've already had to do it.
I've had to do that.
I am so sorry.
My buddies' kids, I've had to show them how to use it. I'm like, oh no.
Mhm. Yeah.
Or the kids who have never seen a phone with a button on it before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like
Oh,
number buttons, not just the side button, you know?
Yep. The rotary phones.
Oh,
Yeah, those.
I still want to see a bunch of young kids try to dial one of those. I know there's videos of it on the internet, but I still need to find one.
like see it in person to behold.
I remember one time I was talking to like this younger guy, and we were talking about like old video games, and then we got on the conversation of Batman Arkham Asylum, and I was like, yeah, man, I love that video game. And he was like, yeah, I just couldn't play it, the graphics are, and I'm thinking like, what are you talking about? Like
that
those
came out on
graphics,
PS3 for those who don't
like-
remember. Like
those graphics are lit. Like, what are you?
like they're still
What do you
pretty
mean?
decent. Like
Yeah. Still halfway decent. Yeah.
I was like, what? I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that's considered bad graphics now, I guess. I'm like, all right. I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I will say I am looking forward to more of the like cultural clash that happens with Jamie and friends, because there's more of it in volume 3. Like at one point they actually go to a different town, Dagona, and somebody looks at Jamie and Thomas. This is a little sneak peek for volume 3 for y'all. But there's a moment where like a shopkeeper looks at Thomas and Daniel and they're like, you need to get your hair done. You look like bush people.
but that's you're right though. That would be a huge culture shock. Like they've been pretty much raised on a ship.
That's true.
Yeah,
Coming in
like
for supplies, so they're on
windswept
land
hair.
for what, maybe a day or two every month or two. Like
Yeah, like the whole like windswept hair, like I've not combed it a day in 13 years.
right, maybe shower once a week. Like
Yeah, absolutely off-putting to a shopkeeper in Dagona
Right.
who's just like, who are you? You look like you came out of the bushes.
and
What is
Jamie probably
this?
doesn't even smell a difference between anybody.
True. Oh dang! I wonder what they smell like now. It's like, oh my gosh, they probably.
I love how somebody
Sure.
says one thing and it could just lead to a whole other trail of thought.
It's just like
They smell like adventure and regret.
There you go. Yeah.
And a little bit of that pepper soup from volume 1. Yeah.
Oh,
I still want to do a stretch goal of oh no, actually not a stretch goal, but something that's specific for people who support me on Ko-fi instead of Patreon, because I switched away from Patreon to Ko-fi.
Okay.
But I have like 20-ish active subscribers on Ko-fi right now, and something that I want to do is like, hey, if you support this upcoming Kickstarter campaign, I will slip in a little zine that's that pepper soup recipe.
That'd be cool. Because you
Yep.
know how many like food items in comic books or on TV shows that I've seen?
Mhm.
Anime is really bad for this. I do not like anime creators for this right here, because all the food
so
they
good.
make on those shows looks
Mhm.
amazing.
Oh,
And you
Mhm.
try a lot of it, and it is not made for American palates.
No.
No.
At least Dungeon Meshi has the decency to be like, oh no, these are monster parts.
Right, like not, you
Yeah.
know, Pokemon calling rice balls donuts. Those are not donuts.
No, those are not donuts. That's a translation issue with 4
Yes,
kids.
100%.
Hell
But
yeah.
when you're, you know, 1997, 7 years old watching Pokemon, you're like, what kind of donut is that? Like,
Mhm.
Why does it look like that?
A very Japanese one, apparently.
right.
Like what?
But no, that's awesome. You're giving a recipe for some of the food that's in there, because, you know, like I said, as a kid, that would have been awesome to know how to make some of the things that I'm seeing on TV. Like, I
Mhm.
want
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles pizza so bad. It looks amazing. I've never found pizza with the cheese that melts the way it does
That
on the
just
old school
pulls.
Ninja
Yeah,
Turtles
man.
cartoon. Like,
You know that pizza was good.
Yeah, it took a couple different iterations to get the pepper soup that I wanted, but I think I got it. Now the soup that's depicted in the comic looks a lot more like a curry. The recipe that I would like to share is a lot more like a traditional soup.
gotcha.
A little less like a curry and more like a soup. But yeah, what they're
You
eating.
can always add some spice and make it like a curry if you want to, though.
You could. I mean, it also depends on like if you have like ready access to a Kroger or an Asian Mart.
Fair enough.
'Cause, like, yeah, it depends, because like those little golden curry like spice boxes will come in really handy for
Right.
particular curry mixes. I'll tell you what.
Man, yeah. I remember JJ, remember when I told you like I had ran out of like all my spices and stuff that I bought when I went to Qatar? Man.
Wait, you've been
So-
to Qatar?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't mention it. So I'm in the Air Force.
Oh,
I'm back to duty in the
Yeah.
Air Force. So I deployed one time to Qatar, and
Mhm.
literally I bought up like so much spices, like curries, freaking saffron.
Mm.
It was so
the
cheap over there.
He ran out of them all. He messaged me and he's like, "Bro, I'm sad."
I'm so sad. I think
I can see that.
I told him, I was like, I just made my last saffron tea.
Uh-huh. Oh no.
Oh man.
Oh, I feel that. I feel that so hard. Yeah.
Well,
Not
we've
to the
got-
same level. Not to the same level. For me, it's like, oh man, now I have to make an adventure to the Asian Mart, and that's like on the opposite side of the city.
Right. He's got to go clear across the planet.
Man,
Yeah.
everything was so cheap. It was so cheap. Like I had a big old bag. It was-
Dang. That's impressive.
Ah,
Yes.
I'm so sorry, sir.
No.
Oh,
no.
I also got to shout out Navajo fry bread, because when I was in Navajo Nation for the time that I was in, I got to try Navajo fry bread. I miss it so much.
Ooh.
Well, because it's not
It-
something you're ever going to be able to like make right, you know. Like I've noticed
There's
that,
just
like,
a particular consistency
yeah.
that
And if you haven't been making it or having somebody teach you how to make it since like you were
Yeah.
a kid, you're not going to get
Yeah.
it. Like,
yeah, like I did not have a Navajo auntie show me how to make it, unfortunately.
Right.
I wish I did.
man.
So before we let you go for the evening, because it is getting about that time, is there anything else that you want to plug or promote before we get out of here? And then if not, where can everybody find more info on the Legend of Jamie Roberts? Where can they get a hold of the Kickstarter stuff? What tell the people what they need to know.
Okay, so I will let you know that this is a regular practice that I do with the Legend of Jamie Roberts, the webcomic. Every time that a chapter ends, I take a 2-week break before the next chapter starts. And this is to not only give me a chance to like build a little bit of a backlog back up, but it's also a way to let readers catch up on the story if they've been like holding off on it and they need to get back into the story. So I will let you know now, chapter 10, the webcomic version has just concluded. So now's a good time to catch up on it. thelegendofjamieroberts.com. Because there's a couple chapters that are not in volume 2, but they will be in volume 3. So yeah,
I was just reading a little bit ahead today on the website, getting prepped and ready.
Just getting ready for some talking points that might be mentioned.
Indeed.
Yes. So this Kickstarter that I'm launching on October 1st, excuse me, it's the T. But the Kickstarter is launching October 1st. It's to reprint The Legend of Jamie Roberts, volumes 1 and 2. For folks who may have already gotten volumes 1 and 2, I have made some new add-on rewards, so keep an eye out for those. For people who have not gotten the books before, this would be a good chance to get those books. I'm going to be working with a new printer for this particular print run, and I want to try to get it as big as possible because I'm already down to the bottom of the barrel with this particular set of books. As soon as those are gone, those are gone. So I would love to print more of The Legend of Jamie Roberts. Honestly, this is a good problem to have, to know that like people love this comic so much that I am down to my final copies of this print run and I need to do another print run.
Well, and the fact that you need to do another print run when this one's gone, like it's not like, okay, that one's gone, we need to focus on the next thing. Like, no, people still want this. We need to print more. Like, that's so awesome.
Yes. Turns out people love stories about pirates and dragons.
I mean, how can you not? As
Legend
long
of
as
Jamie
it's well
Roberts.
done and well executed.
Oh, thank you.
Everybody likes pirates and dragons.
Yes. And then what's better than the two of them together?
Right.
Exactly.
Pirates fighting dragons, or dragons fighting pirates, or pirates fighting with dragons.
Yes, indeed.
Regardless of how it goes, it's fun.
That is true.
Yes.
That is true.
But if you guys want to check out anything, there was QR codes all over the screen. There are links all over the description down below. Everybody listening on Spotify and other places, there will be links in the description of the episode there as well. So nobody has to miss out on anything. If you do so happen to want to support the show and help us support the independent comic book community, you can always stop by the Indie Inkwell merch store and pick up a t-shirt or a hoodie or a sticker or something. We'd greatly appreciate it. Everything goes right back into the show so we can do more interviews just like this for everybody else. If you've got nothing else, thank you so much, Kelci, for coming on the show. Again, we'll have to have you back on for volume 3. So be sure to let me know when that's about to drop out so we can get everything set up.
Oh, heck yeah. I will definitely keep you posted. Thank you so much for having me, y'all.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody, please join us for our next episode, which is going to be on October 2nd. Guest to be announced very soon. As always, everybody, please be safe and be kind. Thanks for joining us on our return episode, and we will see you guys next time.